Welcome to another live segment show of the Denko Gridiron Show. Grayson, Nolette, and John Piper. Thank you, podcast listeners, wherever you subscribe. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio app.
Yeah, now right there. Thank
you so much for tuning in and sharing the podcast. It's a Thanksgiving special. Man, we'll be coming... We'll start the show here in about 4 minutes. We like to come on about 5 minutes early to get everybody acclimated. Man, I'm fired up. Grayson, what about you, man?
Fired up, totally. Yep.
Grayson, we're trying to fatten him up. We'll talk about that here in a minute. For the podcast listeners, he is eating some Suckle Buster rubbed ribs, and I got a chance to sample them before the show. They are good.
Oh, yeah. John was like, we're going live, and I was like, well, I mean, I haven't eaten my last rib yet, but, you know, it's all good.
Yeah, it is the lunch hour, and that's why we do it. You know, we take our lunch hour to
Anybody
provide.
Else is on their lunch break, I'm just joining in here. You
Texas
know what I'm
high
saying?
school football, and
I
that
missed
way
last week. I'm just getting a
people
little
can
comfortable.
tune in. They can tune in on their lunch hour. So I think moving the show to noon on Wednesdays has been a big success. We used to do it at 8 o'clock on Wednesday nights, and I know I think that works out pretty well. What do you think?
Eating ribs on the show pre-hand is also, I think, worked out really well for me here today.
Hey, folks, let us know, audio, video, good. We always like to hear from you, and let us know where you're tuning in from. Got the graphic up right there, Grayson. Nice graphics.
Oh, look at that.
Grayson handles all our graphics, doing a great job. Be talking Texas high school football. Thank you, IAMS Peters from Wildcat Ram Stadium. That's one of your buddies, I believe, right?
What's up? I don't think so. I think that's just we got a supporter in here right now.
Yeah. We're going to have a good show for you today. Yeah.
What are you doing over there? Dude, you're excited to have me back, aren't you? You felt a little lost with me last week without me, John?
I missed the gunslinger. We had Mike Leslie and Dell Hansen, man. Those are some pretty big boots on the ground right there.
I got to watch the replay of that, and listen to it on Spotify. Get some good content there.
Yeah, folks, we will get started here just shortly, but thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of you may be off work, I guess. We're in work mode. It's Texas high school football season, a run to the playoffs, the postseason. Normally we're about 2 or 3 weeks into the postseason. That holds true for Argyle. We'll get into that. But the 5A and 6A teams are still 2 weeks left in their regular season, and then the playoff run, I believe it goes through the second week of January this year. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. Kind of an interesting year.
Yeah. Normally
2020.
College bowl games, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then the New Year's. You're going to have some Texas high school football this season.
It's a sad sight, John. My ribs are gone.
Yeah, let's go ahead and, before we discard that.
My ribs are gone, guys.
We want to thank, obviously, our friends at Suckle Busters. They provide some great items, and I think we're going to do another Suckle Busters giveaway. So stay tuned for that. There'll be a way to get into that. But friends of the show,
the
McClary family, their son is a quarterback for the Braswell Bengals, and they were a winner a few weeks ago, and they were kind enough. Hey,
here
they may be on the road, so I don't know if they're tuning in, but They were kind enough to bring us. I'd call
They
this
brought us a little barbecue
care
kit
package.
here.
A
Yeah,
care
they brought us a
package.
barbecue care package. Look at that.
And unfortunately, if my kids are watching, they're going to say, "Hey, Dad, you better bring some of those ribs home." So
You can't see them, but we got a nice little rack and a half, John.
yeah,
A rack
hey,
and
thank
a half
you
of
so
ribs
much. That's one reason
from
we do
the
the show
McClarys.
is for the fans, for the families in the Denton community, and thank you, McClary family. We got to meet them, and when we get on to the Braswell, we'll have to talk. They gave us some insights on their season finale with the Allen Eagles as well.
Shout out to the McClarys, man. By the way, those ribs were fire. I mean, banging ribs. Amazing ribs. The McClarys did an awesome job cooking those up.
And it is
Smoky,
Thanksgiving week.
tender ribs. They did put no sauce on those. They went straight Suckle Busters, spice rubs, and that was it. And they were bomb.
Matter of fact, at the top of the show, now's the time. I think that's what we'll do. We'll do another giveaway. I'm going to let people know what they have to do to enter that. We're going to give away another. Go ahead and hold that up, Grayson, while I bring this graphic up.
Boom.
We are going to give away another. I think they call that a little tailgate package. I'm going to go pick up at Will Call I'm going to do a peach glazed turkey
I knocked down
on
the
my
iPad.
smoker for Thanksgiving. So I'm going to do a Suckle Busters
Ooh, you doing
smoked turkey.
smoked turkey for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Huh?
So here's what you got to do to get in on that Suckle Busters giveaway. Podcast listeners, you can get in on this too. Text the word Dentco, DENCO, to 214-416-9771. It's up on the screen on graphics. Again, text Dentco to 214-416-9771 to just become part of the Dentco Gridiron community. That way we can text out, we'll probably throughout the holidays text out some promotions from some of our sponsors, and we'll also be able to send you links and some graphics, probably text out players of the week and those types of things. So that's just a great way for us to reach out and communicate with you. So we appreciate you being a part of the show. Yeah.
I know you all are really lucky or happy to have me back, by the way. I know I was gone last week, John. And for anybody who's curious, I know the McClarys were just asking about it too, but I was called off on I guess you call it a special assignment, John. I was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah. When you told me you were doing swimming and diving, I'm like, wow, you're stretching yourself out there.
So how was it? I had a good buddy of mine, Thomas Lee. He hits me up and he's like, hey, Gray, I need somebody to go to Shreveport, Louisiana for Tuesday through Saturday and to call the state championships for swimming. I thought it was swimming and diving. It ended up being just swimming. And I've never done swimming in my entire life, John. I've never called swimming, never been in that realm before. I mean, the only time I even watch swimming is during the Olympics, and that's every 4 years. So it's not like my knowledge is that extensive. But you know what? Thomas really instilled some confidence in me, and I've done other sports I'd never done before in the past for the first time. So, I wasn't intimidated. I was ready to go. I was like, you know what? Never been to Shreveport. Never been to Louisiana for an extended period of time. Never called swimming. Let's do it. Let's go for it. So that involved me missing the show last week, Wednesday, because I was there from Tuesday to Saturday. I even missed the Louisville game on Friday. They had to call in somebody to replace me on play-by-play. So
Brandy Votney's on here. She said, hey, happy Thanksgiving, gentlemen. And she says, Grayson's wound up for some Texas football this week. Whoop, whoop.
I am really stoked to be back on the show. I'll just say, it was a good experience. It went way better than I expected to. I usually set my expectations low for new things, new experiences, things that I don't have a lot of info about. But you know what? Everything was taken care of. My hotel was taken care of. My food was taken care of. All the staff for the state championships at the natatorium. It was at a YMCA in Shreveport. Everyone treated me really great. We got a lot of compliments. Had a great time. But you know what? I definitely missed my Texas high school football.
Yeah, great experience. And Grayson, he's a grad student at UNT and pursuing TV, radio, broadcasting. So, man, I applaud you. All the experience you're getting, to drop what you're doing and go do high school swimming in Louisiana. Man, I tip my cap to you if I had a cap on right now, Grayson. Good job.
I had a great time. I mean, question marks on if I would be happy to do 8 hours of broadcasting for 4 days straight again. Definitely put some strain on my voice. So if my voice is a little hoarse here today as well, I apologize for that. Still recovering from that week of broadcasting a little bit, but some hot tea, some fantastic ribs from the McClarys, and I'm feeling great right now for today's show.
They'll probably watch on the replay, so hey, thanks again. It is Thanksgiving week, and tomorrow is the Thanksgiving holiday, and I know you've got some plans to travel. But this start and thank our sponsors.
Yes.
I'll start with Bud Bartley Homes. What can I say? They help us on all the broadcast stuff we're doing, and Bud Bartley's been building homes in the North Texas community for over 30 years. Let me bring them up. Building in three communities, Grapevine, Highland Village, Copper Canyon. They can custom build on your lot as well. Just go to budbartleyhomes.com, and we only work with folks that we know, like, and trust. Sucklebusters, been using their products for several years. Bud Bartley built my home, Grayson, over 16 years ago, and man, we're so happy. We plan on being in there forever. So Bud Bartley, thank you so much. Check them out, budbartleyhomes.com. And Marty B's, Grayson, you had a chance to go visit them recently.
I know. And unfortunately, I didn't really get to talk about it last week, but this was 2 Saturdays ago at this point. So not last Saturday, but the Saturday before. My fiance and I, Elaine, finally had the opportunity to host our engagement party at Marty B's. We ordered a private kind of bodega area on their top floor. We had a roped off section to ourselves. They catered our food. We had some great food, John. We had brisket queso. We had some pulled pork sliders, some hatch chili mac, and a lot of great. And everybody got drink tickets and stuff like that. So everyone said all the drinks were really great too. There was live music going. Fantastic.
Yeah, always fun time at Marty B's.
It was awesome. So
yeah, hey, again, thank you for being part of the Dinko Gridiron Show each and every week, all season long. And man, you ready to talk a little Texas high school football?
Well, just want to make sure that everybody knows that I'll also be showing off some pictures of my engagement party at Marty B's on next week's show. Hopefully, I'm still collecting them together. I'm going to put together a little slideshow for everybody to see how awesome it is to host an event at Marty B's, and make sure you check them out at martybsplace.com. And now I'm ready for some high school football.
All right. Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in each and every week. And share this out, or if you're watching on the replay, type in comments. We monitor that throughout the week, and both Grace and I are engaged on our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
And I've always got the feed pulled
YouTube
up here. I'm ready to comment right now if anybody wants to, toss in some
man,
opinions
I like that
in there.
graphic, man. I'm getting excited for the holidays. My wife Shannon, shout out to Shannon. She does a great job decorating the house. She's going to be cooking. I'm going to do that turkey. And
the smoked turkey.
I'm excited about the holidays as well. It's a great time of year. So, hey, first up, the Guyer Wildcats, McKinney Boyd Broncos.
Let's get into that action, John.
I'm part of the broadcast team that does Guyer Radio, and from C.H. Collins. McKinney Boyd, their record was not really reflective of how good a team they really are. And, boy, did they ever show it, Grayson, jumping out early on the Guyer Wildcats, 21-3 in the first half.
Yeah, going into the locker room, the McKinney Boyd Broncos looked like they were about to do to the Wildcats what they kind of did to the Braswell Bengals earlier on this season, was come out with the stifling defense, a really great game plan, keeping the ball out of the Wildcats' hands, and just attacking from there. And it seemed like that game plan was going according to what the Broncos were looking for in a 21-3 lead going to the locker room. But then Guyer had a change of plans in the second half, didn't they, John?
Yeah, I had a chance to visit with Coach Webb this week for his pregame show coming up next week, and we asked him about it. Rick Throkill is on the play-by-play with me on the Guyer Radio Network, and I asked Coach Webb, or we asked Coach Webb, hey, what did you say to the team at the half? He goes, well, we made some adjustments, and I made them in a pretty stern voice. And, boy, did they respond. I mean, and that's one challenge that he mentioned. Guyer starting off slowly. They've done that in several of their games. And, once they get into the playoffs, you can't start off slow in Texas high school playoff action, or you'll end up packing up your bags and going home.
Yeah, well, Guyer definitely message was received by Coach Rodney Webb there in the locker room as the Wildcats came out in the second half against McKinney Boyd and scored 30 unanswered, compiling 16 second half first downs, and just honestly put the ball kind of in the hands of the run game with Eli Stowers and B.J. Phillips there in the second half. And B.J. Phillips totally went off for Geyer in the second half there.
Yeah, he kind of put the team, I would say, on his back. I mean,
totally.
He there were a lot of plays. The stat sheet doesn't show it, Grayson, but a lot of plays where he was stopped after about a 2 or 3 yard game. It just kept those big legs moving. He goes about 6'1", 215, a very strong running back, and he would just turn a 3 yard gain into about 6 or 7. And really help open up the offense. Eli Stowers didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but got it done with his legs as well.
Yeah, Eli Stowers through the air, just 117 yards passing on 14 completions. No touchdowns, no picks. But on the ground, 13 carries, 121 yards rushing touchdown as well for Eli Stowers. So definitely was a great compliment to B.J. Phillips, who had arguably his best game of the season. 18 carries, 144 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground for B.J. Phillips. All 4 touchdowns for Denton Geyer there coming on through the ground game. They had no passing touchdowns in that win over McKinney Boyd, 33-21, the final score there. Wow, just what a great second half transition there for the Wildcats to come back and secure that W.
Yeah, Geyer's been battling some injuries. There'll probably be a couple more players out this week, Grayson, and that's a good segue. They travel to Little Elm and play the Lobos at Lobo Stadium this Friday. It's a post-Thanksgiving day. A lot of the games are at 2 p.m. So Geyer next up against a 2-6 Little Elm team. But, Little Elm's playing for pride. The question is, will Geyer overlook them and leapfrog ahead to playoffs? So, Little Elm, any 6A team has quite a bit of talent on it. So, Geyer cannot overlook this Little Elm team, although they've secured a spot in the playoffs. But, they want to go in with some momentum and beat Little Elm.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that Geyer still has an opportunity, I believe, to secure first place in the district. Allen currently holds first at undefeated in district play, but Allen still has the Braswell Bengals in front of them before they end their season. And if Braswell defeats Allen at home, then that would most likely launch Geyer into first place in their district, and that would absolutely be huge for the Wildcats going into the playoffs.
It helps in the seeding,
gives you a little bit easier of a time in the first 2 rounds, especially, and could really result in your team just kind of getting a little bit more momentum going into the postseason. So absolutely, even though the Lobos are just 2-6, Little Elm, like you said, John, kind of just playing for pride in this one, I don't think Geyer should take a break in this one at all. I mean, maybe if you catch a big lead in the second half, get the backups in there, let your starters take a break, but don't give Little Elm this game. I think Geyer definitely wants to win this one.
Yeah, it'll be good to see. There'll be several players that are game time decisions again for Geyer, but it'll be good to see. I know Coach Webb would like to get some of those players that have been out a couple of weeks, some reps, get them some action before they get into the postseason. So be another great game, 2 o'clock Friday from Little Elm. So I'm looking forward to bringing that one on the radio airwaves. Well, Grayson, next up, Braswell Bengals.
Yep, keeping it in 5-6A right now. Braswell is definitely in its best position to make the playoffs going into their bye week, as they were able to take down the Prosper Eagles in a 5-6A bout on the road. They had to take on Prosper, and they came out with a solid 41-24 win, all on the back, once again, mostly of Tristan McClary, their quarterback. He tallied 4 total touchdowns in this one, 2 through the air, 2 on the ground, 251 yards passing, 66 yards rushing. He's still a top 5 quarterback in 6A in both yards and touchdowns. He's been that workhorse for them, the leader all year long. Jamarian Sanford also had a great game for them on the ground, 19 carries, 170 yards, and a touchdown. But Braswell, definitely, I mean, they've been in must-win situations for the last couple of weeks. Prosper has been one of the tougher teams. I think one of the more surprisingly tough teams to play in 6A this season. And I think that was a huge win for the Bengals, 41-24. And now they get a bye week this week before they have the ultimate test in 2 weeks on December 3rd. They got to take on the Allen Eagles at home. Huge must-win opportunity for Braswell. I believe if they lose that game, they will most likely miss the playoffs. But if they win, I mean, not only do you take down the mighty Allen and make the postseason, but you do it at home, blazing fashion. I mean, it would be a huge opportunity for them in 2 weeks to win that game against Allen at home.
If you're just now tuning in, we had a chance to visit with Tristan McClary.
Yeah, like we said,
he and his family brought some ribs that they smoked with some suckle busters, and were kind enough to really surprise us. They gave us a day or two notice, said, hey, we'll bring you some ribs if you guys want some, and we're like, yeah, bring it. And
we thought it was just going to be, we thought it was just going to be one or two members of the family coming down, but all the McClarys came to visit us, including Tristan.
Holiday week, and we had a chance to ask them, hey, what do you think about the Allen game? And Tristan McClary, pretty confident young man. He said building off this momentum they have beating Prosper, offensively, I think they're very confident. I know Coach Cody Moore has a tremendous amount of confidence in that offense. And, man, that'll be a game to watch. I'm excited about tuning into that game here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, it'd be a different situation if Allen kind of didn't need to win this game, too, to remain in first place in 5-6A. Like, if the Eagles could have lost this game and still been in first, then maybe Braswell would be like, oh, who knows? They might play their backups or this or that. But no, Allen's got to win this game just as badly as anybody else, simply because if they do lose against Braswell on the road, then that would put them in second place. Den Gyro most likely jump to first in 5-6A. Allen does not want any part of that. The Eagles are definitely going to be coming to play at C.H. Collins. It's going to be a huge game for both squads, but Braswell has nothing to lose. They have all the opportunity in the world to make some history and hand Allen their first loss of the season. It would be an amazing way to end their regular season.
Hey, let us know. Post in comments what your Thanksgiving plans are, what we like to engage with the audience and the fans. Let us know if you're traveling, you're staying home. Are you smoking a turkey? Are you baking a turkey? Are you deep frying it? Have you ever deep fried a turkey?
I think deep frying a turkey has got to be one of the most, I don't want to say stupid, but it's unsafe.
Don't say that.
Because it's not stupid, it's delicious, but it's insanely unsafe if you do not know what you're doing.
Yeah, you're taking a blowtorch.
Basically.
But that's good. I've had a couple. I've never done one myself, but
if you're going to do it, just know what you're doing is all I recommend, because I'm sure you and I have both seen plenty of internet videos of people just nearly lighting their houses on fire or whatever just because they don't know what they're doing, dunking a whole turkey in hot oil. And it's obviously a dangerous combo, but very delicious if you can execute.
Well, hey, next up, unfortunately, COVID has caused quite a few games, actually, this season to be canceled.
Yeah, especially in recent memory, unfortunately.
Marcus and Hebron had to cancel due to COVID, so we hate to see that, because that's just, there's very few games that, especially these high school seniors, get to play, and to have a game taken away from them. The positive, though, is they're having a season, and it looks like we're going to get to the playoffs and hopefully crown a state champion at AT&T Stadium here in just about 6 weeks.
Yeah, even though that a lot of teams, especially the ones that we covered, John, have had to face that adversity of maybe having one game canceled or rescheduled at some point. Thankfully, it hasn't canceled anybody's season. It hasn't canceled anybody's opportunity to still do what they need to do to reach their season goals or make the postseason or whatever they have to. None of that's happened to that negative of an extent. It just seems like every now and again, one team has to miss one game. Ryan missed a game really early on in the year, and now here's Marcus. Unfortunately, they had a road matchup against Hebron scheduled for Friday night, canceled due to COVID-19, which, to be honest, John, spells a little bit of luck for the Marauders, because now they kind of get a bit of a bye week instead of having to play Hebron on the road before they have to hit the road again to take on the Louisville Fighting Farmers, the team that I cover every Friday night, this Friday on Black Friday for the Battle of the Axe.
Yeah, that's another game that, boy, we're zoned in on. That's always a big game, and obviously Marcus playing very well, but Louisville is playing really some good football late in the season.
Louisville's been getting better every single week, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're now on a 3-game winning streak. Would have been a 4-game winning streak had they not had one of their games canceled 2 weeks ago against Plano High. But now here it is. Marcus 7-0, 4-0 in district. Louisville 5-2 overall, 3-1 in district. And you know what that means, John? The Battle of the Axe this year decides first place in District 6-6A. That was not the case last season, and it is this year. And even though Marcus has seemed on borderlining unstoppable with Garrett Nussmeyer at the helm there, with head coach Kevin Atkinson. Louisville, like I said, they've been playing their best football in recent memory, and their defense especially looked really solid in this last Friday's win against Coppell. They won 42-14, or perhaps I think it was 49-14, actually, John. They defeat Coppell. So Louisville, very electric on offense, very similar to Marcus in that facet. But I already talked to head coach Mike Odell of the Fighting Farmers about this matchup and what Louisville plans on doing. And in terms of offense, they're going to take whatever Marcus most likely gives them. They might try to attack if it seems opportunistic, but they're not going to take risks if it doesn't seem like it's the right opportunity. And then when it comes to defense, they want to play fast and they want to play efficient. They don't want to miss tackles. They don't want anybody to be the hero. They want people to do their job and to try to slow down Garrett Nussmeier as best as they can.
Yeah, he is, man, what a weapon.
He is a force to be reckoned with. And, I mean, it's not just him. J. Michael Sturdivant at wide receiver, Tyler Schott at wide receiver, Dallas Dudley at wide receiver. Their defense is also very elite. The Marauders, there's a reason why they're undefeated. Louisville certainly has a test in front of them. But the Fighting Farmers are in the best opportunity and position possible to beat Marcus this Friday. They've been playing their best football, and they're going to have to play their best football to beat the Marauders.
Hey, we've got some folks that have joined a little late, so we are doing another Suckle Busters giveaway. And the way to get entered into this one is just text DENCO, D-E-N-C-O, to 214-416-9771. You'll be part of our community. That'll enable us to text with you and send you, information about the show and players of the week, pictures, videos. Just a good way to interact, and you can text us directly. Just a fun way. A lot of people like to do that. Not everybody's on Facebook. So if you're on the YouTube channel, Twitter, Periscope, just a good way for us to reach out and let you know about things, especially holiday specials. We might do something with Suckle Busters and Marty B's and some other friends of the show that we can reach out and let you know, hey, maybe it's something special going on at Marty B's or live music, something like that.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere for any time in the near future, John. A lot of our teams are most likely going to be making the playoffs, so we're about to just transition into some postseason specials, most likely here on the Denco Gridiron Show, so make sure you're tuning in every Wednesday at noon.
Next up, the Flower Mound Jaguars. Boy, they've been close in several games, and they really needed that win against the Plano West Wolves. They end up losing to Plano West 20-10. I had a chance to visit with Coach Basil early in the week, and man, they were close. They had the lead early, and then just gave up a third and a fourth quarter score to end up losing that one to Plano West, and it really kind of changed their direction for the playoff hunt. They're going to have to get a lot of help. They're going to have to win their last game, and then have some help from some other teams in their district to lose to get a chance for the playoffs. Yeah,
it's unfortunately just been an off year for the Flower Mound Jaguars, very out of character for them, and they lost a lot of talent from this last season at a majority of their skill positions, including their starting quarterback, Blake Short. But Flower Mound just hasn't really been able to put the pieces together in each and every single game this year. They've just been a little bit inconsistent. And like you mentioned, John, Flower Mound seemed to actually have a lot of the momentum in its favor when they forced Plano West to actually turn the ball over on downs with less than 9 minutes left to play in the game. They had a 10-7 lead, and that unfortunately wouldn't hold. The Wolves ended up scoring 2 touchdowns and forcing 2 more turnovers before the game ended to come out with a 20-10 victory over the Jaguars.
Nick Evers had another nice night, 18-24. 10 carries for only 15 yards. But, boy, big hole in their receiving core. Parker was out. I think he broke his collarbone in practice.
And that's after they already had like 3 other receivers, including Isaac Carpenter and a couple others who were out as well with injury. So just a totally depleted Jaguars wide receiver core. Absolutely, just you hate to see it. And I mean, the defense was doing what it could. They only allowed 50 yards passing.
Defensively, they played good all season long. Colton Votney, Stone Eby, quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 10-7 game late in Plano West.
Yeah,
honestly,
they're
just
doing,
made some
they're
things
doing
happen.
A job all season long.
And credit to the Wolves of Plano West too. They secured their first winning season since 2014, John. So Plano West, honestly, having a a great year in recent memory for them. They've really just been coming out in a lot of games that they really didn't have any business winning, and just came out with a great game plan, well executed game plan, and are just taking down teams in 6-6A left and right. They beat Louisville earlier this year to open district play when everyone thought that the Fighting Farmers were heavy favorites in this one. And once again, Flower Mound were light favorites coming into this game. They had a late lead in the fourth quarter, and Plano West somehow just makes plays and comes out with another W. The Wolves have just been doing it all year.
Next up, Flower Mound will have the Plano Wildcats. The Wildcats are 1-4. They play at 2:00 on Friday as well. What are your thoughts on that matchup, Grayson?
Look, 2 weeks ago, Flower Mound scored 63 points, John, and it seemed like Nick Evers was on just a completely astronomical level and doing things in that offense that we had not seen all year long. And, we'll say it again. Several of their receivers are now out with injury, and, just a totally depleted skill position situation there for the Jaguars. But you know what? We've seen them be able to put up huge numbers and put up insane games. And you're playing a team, the Plano Wildcats, they're 1-4 this year. They've had several of their games canceled due to COVID-19, unfortunately. We know it's been an off year for the Jaguars, but they're favorites going into this final game against Plano. They're playing for pride. They've been eliminated from playoff contention, but you know what? Show that pride, go out there, get a dub to end your season.
Yeah.
And, the defense has been playing great all year long. They should continue to do what they do. I think Nick Evers is a really great player for the Jaguars. He's going to be their starting quarterback next season. Let's get next season started off on the right foot with a W to end 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Coach Basil's always working on, setting that attitude properly, always coaching those young men. And that's really what high school football coaches are geared to do. So, yeah, we're pulling for them to finish strong, and that'll be a great win to wrap it up.
And I'm expecting them to do it against Plano, too. The Jaguars are the better team. Flower Mound should be able to take care of business there.
Sherry Williams tuning in from just north of Louisville, Kentucky.
Happy Thanksgiving, Sherry.
Hey, Sherry.
Thanks for tuning in.
We'll ask Sherry. Sherry, what are your thoughts on Ryan Raiders winning a state title this year? Posting comments.
And I hope that they're positive, because the Raiders have looked just as dominant in 5A as the Argyle Eagles have looked in 4A for a majority of this season, John. They get another huge victory, this time against the Frisco Heritage Coyotes at home, 63-20, the final score there. And wow, John, Seth Hennigan has been mesmerizing to watch this year. He's been near perfect in some of these games. Look at these stats in this one. He only plays in the first half. He didn't even play in the entire second half, John. 15 of 18, 279 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for Seth Hennigan. He's top 5 in 5A in touchdowns and yards. I'm surprised he's not top 3 or maybe even number 1, because he has just been so insanely just fun to watch and so efficient, and has not made almost any mistakes in several weeks here now. He had more touchdown passes than incompletions against Frisco Heritage.
Yeah, really playing well. The Memphis commit and Coach Hennigan's son. It's just a great storybook. It would be a phenomenal storybook to finish out his high school career in AT&T Stadium, crowning a state title.
We know he's going to the University of Memphis too, and they have got to be stoked to see the season that he's been having this year. He has just been on another level in 2020 than he was in 2019, just putting up throws, putting up numbers that he was not putting up last year.
Kiori Hicks, only 7 carries, 38 yards, I'm assuming, and 2 TDs. I'm assuming he only played probably the first half as well.
Yeah, well, we got to give a shout out to the backups too, John. The backup quarterback, Kaylon Davis, did himself some numbers there in the second half as well. 6 of 11, 107 yards passing, and he had a 74-yard touchdown pass to Jordan Bailey as well. So even the backups are getting it done out there for the Raiders.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh, and I also got to mention Jatavian Sanders, great game. 6 catches, 3 touchdowns. Dude plays both ways, defensive end. That's his best game of the season for Ryan as well. Jatavian Sanders, 6 catches, 91 yards, 3 touchdowns. Billy Bowman, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. Both of those guys are so crazy talented.
Yeah, good stuff. Next up,
they got Frisco Independence.
Frisco Independence.
Yeah, Ryan's on fire. Frisco Independence is 3-3. It's on the road for the Raiders, so normally you'd think that'd have a little bit more of a factor.
It's only a
to
17, according to the computers, 17-point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting the Raiders to probably do exactly what they did against Frisco Heritage. They'll probably take a really good lead there in the first half, put the backups in the second half, and that's probably why you're seeing just a 17-point favorite there, John. They're not trying to whip anybody up by 50 every single week. They're going to try to stay healthy going into the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Denton Broncos had a bye week. Boy, they're having an off season, man. We want all our teams to do well, but it's not always possible. Just an off season. I don't know if it's a rebuilding year. I think it's a little bit of a rebuilding year for Coach Billy Miller. They're 1-7, 0-6 in district play.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of struggles at quarterback that I know I've been a little savage about here on the show, John, not kind of exposing them for just not really getting it done at quarterback in a couple of games. And in some games they've popped up, some games they've had no production at quarterback, and it's really just added up to a 1-7 overall record, 0-6 in district. They've also been playing a lot of great teams. I mean, Denton Ryan's in their district. That's never fun to deal with. And they have to play some really good Frisco teams as well. They had to play Frisco Lone Star this year. And yeah, it's not been a great time to be a Denton Bronco fan in 2020. And I think, John, it's like you said, it's kind of just a rebuilding year. They're a really young team. I know that they've been fighting some injuries as well, and they've just had a really tough schedule. And now here they are. They've got one more game after a bye week this week. They're taking on the Frisco Wakeland Wolverines, who are 5-4 on the season. And this is actually going to be a Black Friday game at C.H. Collins, interestingly, John. Not sure why it's not being played at Bronco Field, but nonetheless, it's going to be a C.H. Collins 2 o'clock Friday kickoff between Frisco Wakeland and Denton High. Who knows? The Broncos could certainly have nothing to lose in this one. Why not end 2020 with a dub?
Hey, speaking of Black Friday, are you a gamer?
I am a gamer. I'm just not much of a Black Friday guy.
You're not going to get up earlier to try to get a...
No.
I think the new Sony PS5 is really hot.
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm in, and I'll just, if anybody's curious about my gaming views on that, I never ever buy a video game, a console, anything involving video games. I never buy it right off the bat. And it's simply
usually
because
wait and just buy it stolen.
It's just not the same. When I was a kid, and things were coming out, when the Wii came out, when the Xbox 360 came out, those consoles and those video games just didn't have as many problems as they do now. There's so much technology you got to deal with. There's so many factors you have to deal with.
A lot of it you just download the games, right?
Yeah, but there's always bugs and there's always problems when it first comes out today because there's so much more technology and so much more high-tech stuff you got to deal with. Especially with these new consoles, I suggest everybody wait at least a couple of months before you go and get one, just to make sure it's not one of those buggy, brand new first day
You heard
ones.
it first right here on the Denko Gridiron Show, giving out technology tips.
I'm giving out your gaming tips for the day.
Stuff.
Let's stick to the football. You're right.
Next up, Lake Dallas Falcons.
This was a really fun game. So the Falcons play Prosper Rock Hill, John, a program that has not won a single game so far in its school's history. I believe they've only been a program for just a couple of seasons. But Prosper Rock Hill was still looking for their first program win ever in this matchup against Lake Dallas, and they snagged it at the very last second. It was 28-21 to start the fourth quarter, but a recovered onside kick really swung things in Prosper Rock Hill's direction, and with less than 2 minutes to go, Prosper Rock Hill was able to score with their quarterback on a 5-yard run to tie the game up, and then they eventually took the lead as Lake Dallas falls 34-28, and Prosper Rock Hill secures their first win in program history. The Falcons played a really great game. It was a really great matchup. It's just eventually Prosper Rock Hill just had to say enough is enough, and they went and got their first dub. Congrats to them. Lake Dallas did play a really good game, though.
Yeah, big day for Brendan Sorsby, and boy, I just feel
Brendan Sorsby going off for the Falcons. Best performance of the season for any Falcon player. Brendan Sorsby at quarterback, looking stout for Lake Dallas. 13 of 18 through the air, 214 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Also had 17 carries, 120 yards rushing, 2 more rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's putting the team on your back right there. Brendan Sorsby nearly carrying the Falcons to that victory.
Man, I like that. With some enthusiasm there,
I was
Grayson.
really happy to see that. Lake Dallas has had their struggles at quarterback so far this year, throughout this whole season. It's kind of been a pass off between Michael Young's been kind of passing off the starting job between Trevor Moon and Brendan Sorsby all year, and I'm not a big fan of that. I think establishing your quarterback, establishing that identity as your leader is always really important. Eventually, I think a couple weeks ago, Michael Young finally handed the reins over to Brendan Sorsby full time, and now here he was. It really came together for him in this game. Great job by Brendan Sorsby. I mean, he had no reason to put up these numbers and to put up this kind of effort against Prosper Rock Hill, but he did put the team on his back, nearly carried him to a victory. I think Brendan Sorsby deserves a lot of credit.
Running back Andre Minifield had 22 carries, 68 yards, but also 2 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown out of the backfield. Quentin Gray, 5 catches, 79 yards, and wide receiver Micaiah Brooks, 1 catch, 55-yard touchdown. Wow, big time play right there.
Yeah, I've been liking Andre Minifield at running back for Lake Dallas this season. He had one really insane game earlier on this year that really opened my eyes to him. And he once again over 100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown for him. A couple receivers, Quentin Gray, Micaiah Brooks, popping in to contribute with Brendan Sorsby. But yeah, overall, this game was, for Lake Dallas at the very least, was all Brendan Sorsby. He really stepped up, gave the Falcons a player and a leader to rally around and to try and go and get a second victory. And although it didn't work out, they lose 34-28 to Prosper Rock Hill. I still think that that's huge for them. Brendan Sorsby, I believe, is just a junior. He should be coming back next season. I think that this is just a really bright spot for Lake Dallas looking ahead to next year. And still with one game left, that I think that they can totally win in Frisco Memorial.
Yeah, they have a Black Friday game as well. I believe a 1 p.m. start.
Yep.
And, boy, it'd be nice for them to get a win on Black Friday.
They've been looking so much better since after their bye week, John. And you and I talked about, that bye week could really benefit Lake Dallas to a great degree, and I think it really has. They've looked so much better post-bye week. So in 2020 than they did before it. It just seemed like they didn't have as much of an identity as they do right now. Brendan Sorsby is your quarterback. Your most talented skill player is Andre Minifield. Quentin Gray can catch some balls for you. I just think that the Falcons are in a great position to end 2020 with a win against the Frisco Memorial Warriors, who are just 2-5 in a 1 o'clock kickoff on Black Friday. I like Lake Dallas in that one.
Well, next up, just right up the road from Marty B's, the Argyle Eagles, which are playing some great football, and number one team in state, ranked in 4A. Coach Rogers and a lot of folks have been around the program for a long time. I think it's the best team they've had since 2014, and they've won 2 playoff games. 4A started the season on schedule, so they're the only team in our coverage area that are already in the playoffs, and man, they're rolling as well.
Yeah, Argyle had a matchup against the Stephenville Yellow Jackets at Globe Life Park, John, where the Dallas Renegades of the XFL were playing their games when the XFL was going on, the old Texas Rangers Stadium.
Matter of fact, our own Quincy Horde was there covering that game.
Wow, that's awesome to hear.
We probably should have had him pipe in. He's got some Thanksgiving plans, but pipe in with his analysis.
I haven't had the pleasure to go and watch a football game there. Of course, I've only been to Rangers games at Globe Life Park, but I've been really curious as to see what that atmosphere looks like as a football field.
Yeah, he said he really
baseball.
liked it. I mean, I saw some pictures, and he did some video interviews, but the downside is the fans, I don't think, can get very close to the field. So
yeah,
that's the downside to any of those.
I know they added some new bleachers to bring it a little bit closer to the field, but I agree. I'm sure that feels a little odd, being probably a little bit farther away than you would at a normal football stadium. But I think that's still just a great stadium. I love Globe Life Park. Definitely still curious to see what a football game looks like there. But Argyle comes out and they take care of business against Stephenville Globe Life Park, 56-27, the final score there, in a Class 4A Region 11 area round playoff game. Man, that's a mouthful. And it was a great game overall on offense, especially for Argyle. C.J. Rogers continues to be who I think is the top quarterback in 4A. 11-17, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. But here he is, Tito Bice. Seems like he disappears for 2 weeks or something, John, and kind of lets a lot of these other talented Eagles players kind of take over.
I think they said they kind of had him on a pitch count, only so many carries.
Yeah.
Saved him for the playoffs, but man,
disappears not the right word. There's just so much talent for Argyle.
Yeah, I was listening to his. He was a halftime feature I was listening to that game on the radio, and he was the featured interview at halftime. And man, what a poised kid! He just had the right attitude coming back from that injury, and one of the team captains and the team leaders of the Argyle Eagles.
He totally leads by example. It's just crazy to see his story and to see the numbers that he gets to put up now for, the best team in the district. He comes out with 12 carries, 149 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Really the workhorse for the Eagles against Stephenville in that one. Cole Kirkpatrick obviously had himself a game, as well as a couple of the other Argyle receivers. Kirkpatrick, 125 yards and a touchdown. Ward McCollum, who we haven't gotten to talk about much this year for the Eagles, 81 yards and 2 touchdown catches. And then Cash Walker, 2 catches, 54 yards and a touchdown as well for Argyle.
Yeah, I like Cash Walker, man. He's rolling some Benjamins right there.
Yes, sir. Oh, and that Eagles defense, 6 turnovers against the Yellow Jackets, 3 fumble recoveries, and 3 picks for Argyle. They are rolling going into their next matchup in the playoffs, John, and it's against their cross-state rivals, I guess you could call them.
Here's the storyline. The last 2 seasons, Argyle beats Waco La Vega during the regular season, and Waco La Vega pushes Argyle out of the playoffs. Well, is the 3rd time the charm. I went to the game earlier this year. Argyle absolutely dominated Waco La Vega. So we were talking before we started the show today about this situation, and is it a chess match? Is Waco La Vega not showing Argyle all their
the cards,
tricks, all their plays, and it'll be probably one of the most interesting matchups of the 4A playoffs because of that storyline.
Yeah, Waco La Vega, the Pirates, 9-2 so far this season. By far the best team that I think Argyle has seen all year. And, that makes sense when you're getting deep into the playoffs now. But what an interesting storyline, John, to just have your playoff runs cut off in the last couple of years by the same group, Waco La Vega. This was kind of the case for the Ryan Raiders a couple of years ago when they had to keep facing Highland Park in the state semifinals, and they just couldn't seem to get past that Highland Park crew, the Ryan Raiders back then. But now here, it's kind of Argyle with Waco La Vega, the Pirates. And like you said, John, Argyle totally dominated them in the regular season earlier this year. There was no contest at all. And head coach Todd Rodgers and company, they've been saying it, probably the best team they've had in the last 5 or 6 years since 2014. Maybe the cards are just laid out right for the Eagles in 2020. Or, like you said, John, maybe the Pirates are playing some sort of chess match here. You don't really really see those types of things go on.
They absolutely dominated them. Waco La Vega was a beat team. Even in the 3rd quarter, they just felt like just the body language. I walked over by the sideline of the Waco La Vega Pirates during that game, and again, Argyle just dominated that ball game. So it'd be really interesting to see how this matchup shapes out.
Yeah, I think Stephenville. Stephenville just put up 27 on Argyle, and the Eagles put up 56, so 56-27. But so I'm expecting Waco La Vega to probably put up some points, but I don't know, man. I just haven't seen a single team that's really been able to step up to the Eagles this year. Even test them, make them break a sweat. Argyle has just been steamrolling people this year.
Very deep and talented team.
I just don't see what Waco La Vega could possibly pull out to get these guys caught off guard when they've already seen them this year. I just don't see it. I see the Eagles coming out big in this one, even if Waco La Vega could put some points on the board.
Well, next up, this team's on a little bit of a roll. Got a little momentum here late in the season. Liberty Christian, they've won 2 in a row, and one of those was a playoff game traveling down to San Antonio.
So 2 weeks ago, when I wasn't on the show, I was talking about how Argyle Liberty Christian was ending their regular season against Dallas Bishop Lynch, a winless squad. And so Liberty Christian wins that game 2 weeks ago, 35-21 to end their regular season. So TAPS playoffs works a little bit differently. A lot of teams get to make it, and so obviously the Warriors get an interesting playoff matchup against San Antonio Central Catholic, and they come out on top, John, 27-14. 2-game winning streak here for Liberty Christian after going 0-6 to start the year. I absolutely love to see it. And now they've got a matchup this Friday against the Fort Worth All Saints Episcopal School. I'm not sure.
It's an early start, 10 a.m. Is that right?
Yep, and Fort Worth on Saturday too, John. It's not. I don't. It says Friday right here on our schedule, but I believe this is actually a Saturday game on the 28th. And yeah, what an interesting time, interesting day. Fort Worth All Saints, though, are just 2-3 to this so far this season. I think they've actually had a couple of their games canceled or dumped because of COVID. So only 5 games played for the All Saints in 2020. And with Liberty Christian winning 2 games in a row right now, I have no reason to believe that the Warriors don't have a shot at winning this game and keeping this playoff run going.
Well, I mentioned it several times this season. I had a chance to go out and visit the Liberty Christian Warriors preseason during their media day. And more the eye test, they have 2 big offensive linemen that go about 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds. Quarterback Stephen Greek, boy,
I mean, he's going to an SEC school. He's going to Mississippi
very athletic.
State.
Donald Driver's son's on that team, just a pure athlete. And so maybe they're just getting it all together now. Maybe.
Yeah, and we talked about what a gauntlet of a regular season schedule that they've had to play, John. I mean, they have to play some of the best teams in TAPS in the regular season, and maybe it's just kind of been a long test for Liberty Christian to get to this point where they're finally playing some equal-based talent and actually coming out on top in pretty convincingly fashion these last 2 weeks. 2-game winning streak for Liberty Christian now going up against the Fort Worth All Saints, who are 2-3. I like Liberty Christian in this one. I think the Warriors are looking pretty solid here.
Well, fans, thank you again for tuning in this week. In our last segment of the show is the Gridiron Players of the Week. And we'll start. Man, you were real high on him. Lake Dallas Falcons. They fell short. They didn't get the W, but I know you were real impressed with quarterback Brendan Sorsby of the Falcons.
Hey, I know some shows out there on NFL Network, Deion Sanders, he does his top 10. He says you have to win the game to make his top 10. Well, you don't have to win the game to make my top 10. You just got to ball out. And Brendan Sorsby certainly balled out for the Lake Dallas Falcons in their loss against Prosper Rock Hill, 13 of 18 through the air, 214 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 17 carries, 120 yards rushing, and 2 more rushing touchdowns for Brendan Sorsby. This was not only the best quarterback performance by any Lake Dallas player this season, it was the best performance, period, by any Falcon so far this season. First appearance as the player of the week for Brendan Sorsby. He was handed the reins permanent, like full-time, as the starter for Lake Dallas, kind of going into the bye week a couple weeks ago. And he's really just been putting out maximum effort. Best game of the year, I think, for Lake Dallas in general, even though they fell 34-28 against Prosper Rock Hill. Great game for Brendan Sorsby. He really put the team on his back in that one.
Yeah, good stuff. Congratulations. Next up, man, the workhorse, although he hadn't had to work a lot this season, not a ton of carries, but Tito Bice of the Argyle Eagles.
Showing up when the time is right. You know what I'm saying, John? Tito Bice for Argyle. We love this kid's story. Second appearance as player of the week and has his best performance of the season in that playoff win against the Stephenville Yellow Jackets, 56-27. Bice comes out with 12 carries, just about 150 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. I love watching this guy play. Love hearing the kind of production that he makes and the kind of leader that he is for the best team in 4A, the Argyle Eagles.
And I'm going to call him the manster because he's really a man amongst boys. I've been up close to him covering some games, but Jatavion Sanders, for Denton Ryan, wow, what an athlete, what a player. I think, is this the second time he's made
this is actually the first appearance for Jatavion Sanders. We've called out Billy Bowman before. Billy Bowman's gotten himself the spotlight, and now we got to hand it on over to Jatavion Sanders for the Ryan Raiders this week. More specifically for his performance at wide receiver, because we know he plays defensive end too, John. 6 catches, 91 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns for Jatavion Sanders. Half of his catches were scores in a 63-21 win against the Frisco Heritage Coyotes. His first appearance as the Gridiron Player of the Week so far in 2020. And, John, I think that Denton Ryan just has so much talent. We've given Seth Hennigan some credit. We've given Billy Bowman some credit. We've given Kiori Hicks some credit, as they've all had appearances as Players of the Week this year. But Jatavion Sanders certainly earned it this week. When half your catches are touchdowns, you also play both ways, dominant every single game at defensive end. He certainly deserves some love here this week.
Lori Bice is tuned in. She obviously puts a heart emoji up for.
We know Lori always
Tito
loves it
Bice,
when we give Tito a shout out. Thanks for listening, Lori. Tito certainly deserved it this week. He had a heck of a game against Stephenville.
And Lori, make sure you share this show, obviously, with the Argyle football community. We appreciate that. So, Grayson, I know you want to jump back in those ribs here shortly. You still hungry?
Shout out to the McClarys once again for bringing through the Suckle Busters ribs that we got. Those were just absolutely fire. Definitely, they gave us plenty to keep enjoying.
And we're going to give away another. Go ahead and hold up that Suckle Busters
we're giving away
package.
Another one.
And to enter, if you'll text DENCO, DENCO, to 214-416-9771, that you'll opt in. It'll be part of our text-based DENCO Gridiron football community. That way we can communicate with you, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, whatever. We can send out information about the show and pictures and videos of the Gridiron Players of the Week. It's just going to be a great way to interact. I think a tool that everybody's going to like, and we promise we're not going to spam you or anything. So,
you get the great little hookup here.
You can text directly to us.
You get a beef rub, you get a chicken rub, and you also get a pork and rib rub.
Nice.
So definitely get the whole setup there for the barbecue. The McClarys have certainly taken advantage of it, and we're going to hook somebody else up so they can get some barbecue going too.
Well, for Grayson Nolette, I'm John Piper. That's going to do it for this week. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll be back next Wednesday at noon Central. We'll see you right here on the DENCO Gridiron
everyone.
Show.
Hey, I'm Mike Ducey from Fox 4. Make sure to tune in to the DENCO Gridiron Show.